Ryan Margolin, very nice to meet you. You are the CEO of Professional Hair Labs. Thank you so much for joining me on the Persevere podcast.
Thanks, Emil, Patty. I look forward to having a conversation and appreciate the opportunity.
So let's just first hear about what Professional Hair Labs is.
Yeah, we're a cosmetic manufacturer. We didn't start there. The company was started in 1994 by my father, and the whole foundations of the company were built upon an experience that we had growing up. So my parents owned hair replacement studios. They operated in the non-surgical side. And over a period of time, my mother got chemical poisoning from the products that she was using. So it forced her into early retirement. My dad sold the businesses, and he dedicated his time to working with chemists on developing a safe and effective product line for not only people who wore hair pieces or hair systems, but also for the technicians. And what happened was, because it was a new water-based solution, the industry were very used to doing it a very specific way. And it took a long time to kind of break down those beliefs that many technicians had on the products they use and why they used them. So over the period of 15 years, from 1994 to 2009, the company was quite stagnant. It was low six figures, 250, 270, I think maybe close to 300 some years, but it never really grew. And when the economic crash happened, I was working in sales and marketing at the time, and I was looking for different opportunities. And my dad called me. I was in Ireland. Excuse me. I was in Ireland. My dad was in Florida. And he's like, why don't you come to Florida and learn a bit about, what we do, and maybe you can apply some of your knowledge to help. And at the beginning, it was my wife, and we only had one daughter at the time. And we were like, oh no, I don't really want to make the move over there. But, upon further reflection, we decided, look, let's do it for a year, see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? We come back. So we went, and I spent the first 6 months learning about the business internally and about the customer base. And we changed some really simple things. There were three key things, really. And we relaunched a new product with new branding, new messaging, and we tripled revenue in 18 months. And from there, we realized we had validated the product. And that's where the journey began.
Wow. I love that. That's a great success story. You really turned it around. That wasn't a bad call your dad made to you from Florida.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. There was many of them. But look, ultimately, I think, especially when you're working in a familiar environment, there's many pros and cons that come along with that. But, at the end of the day, knowing that you're moving somewhere and you're going to have someone who totally has your back regardless, that made the decision a little easier. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but look, it worked out in the end. We have a company now that is impacting our industry exactly as we wanted to. And we then since scaled that into a deeper range of cosmetics, which we're now manufacturing, and we're trying to tackle that part of the market too, to make it a safer place.
Wow. So you have B2B sales. Yeah. And then you are essentially a vertically integrated company, because you're manufacturing and you're doing the distribution and then the direct sales to your customers.
Yeah, so the B2C side of things isn't really our strong point. In fact, we only really launched our B2C side of the business to combat counterfeits, because we came across a huge issue with counterfeits. And it's still something we're fighting to this day. And, the only way we could effectively combat that was by working with select distribution channels, and also making the product directly available from our own company. If people had any concerns about it, they know if they're buying from us, then at least they're buying a legitimate product. If they're in certain areas of the world and we know we have distribution or wholesale or retail in that area, we'll point them in that direction. But I think, in the day and age we live in, with all the concerns about counterfeit products and how good counterfeit products can look, I just think it's vital to cover all touch points.
Mm-hmm. And you're multinational. How many countries are you operating in?
We're only operating in 2 countries, but we supply globally to pretty much every country. So we have an Irish entity, which is our principal manufacturing location. And from that location, we supply pretty much everywhere in the world. We have a distribution and warehouse and office facility in Florida. and that services the US market, Canada, Puerto Rico, and Mexico. But Arlen handles everywhere else.
Wow. So from your, you had mentioned a family business, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about running a family business. A lot of, I have been part of a family business before, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they either want to be a part of a family business of their own, or they are in one. And then the other piece that I want to talk about today is that personal branding side. I'm very curious about this, of how you establish this, and selfishly, because I am doing the same thing right now, and I'd love to learn from you. So, from the family business side, Ryan, how do you mentioned that trust factor? You know, you have someone that has your back, but then at the same time, you know, all of those weak points of your family members and really what gets them. And so how do you operate as a family business and maintain the professionalism with such a large company?
Yeah, so for me, it was the foundational level was all about personal development. Fortunately for us growing up, our mother was very empathetic. And I think naturally that carried over into us. So no matter what position we're in, no matter how, small or big it is, or how emotional or non-emotional it is, we're always able to put ourselves in the shoes of another. And I think in order to effectively, I suppose, handle any type of situation without it getting to a point where it doesn't need to be, you need to be able to do that. So I think, we're very fortunate in that respect, is that no matter what happens, we always start from that point and work backwards. Because at the end of the day, we realize is that we all have the same common goal. We're all on the one page. We want this company to succeed. And sometimes that success doesn't look exactly like one person views it. Now, naturally, you have your hierarchy in the company where, CEO, president, operating officer, you have certain lines and responsibilities that are non-negotiable. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, as a leader of a company, or no matter what position you're in, management or, executive wise, you need to be able to take on the input of those around you, because if you don't trust the information of those around you, you've got the wrong people around you. And that's really what it comes down to. So I think personal development was the foundation there. And our natural personality characteristics carried us through.
How many of you are related that are working on the executive level?
3. There's myself and my 2 brothers. 3. So there's my brother Daryl, he's the president, and my brother David is the chief operating officer. He resides in the States at the moment, and he ensures that our operations are flowing smoothly. And it works really well. We're in constant contact every single day to discuss where we're going, where we're at, and the daily challenges that present themselves inside of a company. We're always on the pulse to make sure that everything gets dealt with to the best of our ability.
Such laser focus there when you know that it's your family business. There's not any lingering like, oh, maybe I'll go look at this opportunity over here. It's, it's sort of like your ride or die, right?
It is. And we do realize that, when you're working in a business, especially a familiar one, it swings and roundabouts. Sometimes there's going to be a heavier workload on one person's plate than there is another. And it's just an accepted part of how we do things. Naturally, it does provide us with some time to look at external opportunities for ourselves, because look, at the end of the day, you have your personal goals and then you have the goals of the company. Not every goal inside of the company satisfies what I want personally. And my brothers, I would be confident to say, is likewise. And the whole point of doing what we do is to be able to achieve exactly that on all fronts. It can never be just about the company. Although, the more satisfied we are with our direction, the more we can actually give into the company, because we just know it's moving in the right direction.
And are any of you old enough to have kids that then work in the company?
Yes, actually, but none of our kids do work in the company for now. It is an open conversation that opportunity will likely be there at some point if they choose to do that. But for now, it's not really something that's on the table, and nor does there seem to be any sort of interest in it. So they see what we deal with on a daily basis, and they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to spend some time enjoying myself before I look at that.
Man, I look at it like, wow, if I had an opportunity to walk into a business and learn from those that I love the most, I would just jump in with both feet, right? But
Absolutely.
it's a difference.
And you know what? But I think ultimately, well, look, I can only speak for myself, I suppose. But what I teach my own kids, when I walk in that door every night, they get my life lessons and my business lessons, that are just
Yeah.
provided to them over a dinner table. It's not something where I need them to shadow me. And I think they see the ups and the downs, and they're smart enough now to know when things are good and when things might be a little bit stressful. But ultimately, it doesn't phase them. And I position it to them as, look, this is a completely normal part, and you have two choices. You either do or you don't. You either choose to sit within, the stress that you have and allow it to build because you're not dealing with things, or you just put them and get rid of them.
Yep. Yep. Those are good, healthy boundaries to have professionally, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it get to me.
No.
When I get to the office, I'll deal with it, but I'm not going to take it home and let my family enjoy their lives.
That was a tough lesson, because I wasn't like that all the time. And truth be told, actually, even, sometimes now it doesn't always work out that way, but I'm always conscious of it. And look, my wife is always the one to say, listen, we can see you're a little bit on edge today, take a breather, go hit the gym for half an hour, go play some basketball, or do whatever you need to do to decompress and then come back, so it's that's all part of the the circle of people you have around you. When they notice when things are a little bit off, go take your time and come back. It's important.
That's so healthy, because if you there are just times in the business I feel like there's something, it's like I have something like the monkey on your back, right? Like that's just the saying that I've got this monkey on my back. Like if you're raising money or expanding a product, or if you're working R&D and something's not, working the way that you want it to, and you bring it home, you have to have a healthy outlet of how to remove that. So you're not this grouchy person all the time.
You do, because it's just not fair to the people around you. I mean, they didn't ask for any of that. This is your position and your problems, and it's not fair to project that on other people. You have to be able to compartmentalize and decompress and just handle your business, really, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, because it's nobody else's to handle.
Yeah.
And that's why sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's where, the kind of whole thing about mental fortitude it becomes really important, because, it's, look, at the end of the day, you could be amazing. You could be the most highly educated person, or, you could have the, biggest network or tons of money or be great at marketing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you don't learn to build, mental fortitude, it's going to be very difficult to face, serious challenges as your company grows, which ultimately, if it does grow to a certain level, you will be faced with these challenges that you didn't ask for and know existed, but you'll find out very quickly they do exist. And it's important to work on that, just being able to toughen up your mind and breaking it down to some really simple things that you can realize that the world is made of. And if you can try to master them, then you're in a good position.
Do you have any daily routines that help you with that?
The only daily routine that I have, which is pretty much a non-negotiable, is just making sure that I get into the gym every day. I think if I miss a day, I'll get over it. But if I miss 2 days, I feel it. And I spend half an hour, 40 minutes on a cross trainer, and then I lift weights. And I just feel that hour and 20 minutes that I give to myself is vitally important to set the day off right. If I don't have that for a period of time, I'm not as productive, and I'm certainly not as tolerant, really.
Yeah, it's so healthy. How do you manage it though when you travel? Like, do you work out when you travel?
I try to. It really depends on where it is or where you're staying. I mean, if the place has a gym, I do totally intend to use it. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, being completely honest. It really depends on my schedule. Like I'm, I'm not a great traveler, right? I don't like traveling with my family. I love my kids being around me, love being
Yeah.
around my and if I go anywhere, I like to bring them with me for the experience. You know, sometimes we take the trade off of missing a little bit of school for the the life lesson it's going to teach the kids. So I typically like to get in and out of where I'm going, and that's why if the schedule is right, I'll do a bit in the gym. If the schedule is hectic, I'll just get in for my 2 or 3 days, get it done, and get home.
Yeah. I'm with you. I always pack my stuff, and then I'm like, okay, I've got the intentions, but then I feel like it's so draining traveling. And even when a conference, like, do you ever feel like so drained from the conference itself, just meeting people, and then you're on to dinner and you're learning, and it's like, then I try to get to bed at a good time too, but it's never the time that I do at home.
Yeah.
And
So part of the thing that I try to work on is being better like that, because typically the way, and it kind of comes off as a little bit rude or brash sometimes, but like when I go somewhere to a business meeting to network, I go in with a very laser focused intention, and when I achieve that, I dip out. It helps me save my brain space to recharge, because I do find in certain circumstances, when you kind of get caught in the long game of the night or the couple of days, you end up your brain just ends up doing excess work that it doesn't need to do, and there's a trade-off there. You know what I mean? I just like
yes.
I like to walk in a room, spend half an hour or an hour, take 2 or 3 key things away from it, and get on with my day. But sometimes it doesn't allow that to happen. But I try to control that where needs be, and try to spend a little bit more time where I know I have the brain power to do it, because look, for me, it's about more managing my focus rather than my time.
Yeah.
And just locked in to whatever time you set for yourself, rather than going, okay, well, look, I've got 8 hours here and this is what I want to learn. I'm like, okay, no, I just want to go in and learn these 2 or 3 key things, and I'm going to give it all I've got for half an hour or an hour, and I'm going to leave. So I think it kind of helps me buy back a little time, but there's always a trade-off on the other side of that.
That's such good advice. So if you were at I was just at a conference and they had a networking happy hour for an hour. So in a situation like that, what would you do?
So in a situation like that, I mean, it really depends. If there's an attendee list, I'd always review it. If not, then you kind of have to go in blind. And then just for me, it's about scanning the room and knowing, is there somebody specific company or in a specific position that would be beneficial for me to talk to. I'm not a big drinker, so any kind of happy hour events, I don't drink. I just get in, get my business done, and go home. So yeah, look, for me, it's about what I can extract the best I can, and I just find that for me, I don't really go into an event looking for a party. I go into an event looking for the ability to learn something from someone, or build a relationship with someone that can be mutually beneficial on both ends.
I don't drink either. So I go in and I'm like, okay, I know I want to meet John and Cindy and Sue. So I try to always have someone with me too. So, okay, let's find those people, and then we'll just stand there until they can talk to us, and then let's move on to the next one. Or let's see if maybe that person could introduce us to another person, because I haven't always been a non-drinker. When I did drink, I'd take the hour and a half of the happy hour, and at the end I'd be like, I talked to like the other vendors. I didn't even meet the people I wanted to meet.
That's not to say I don't drink. Like, I'd often sit at home and enjoy a whiskey or a glass of wine. But when I'm there to do a job, it's like I'm there to work, and I just feel that even like I'm not the type of person that needs a drink or two to relax. It's for me, it's like if I'm feeling a bit of anxiety over something, which is totally normal, I get on with it. It's just like, look, it's temporary, it's a feeling, and that's all it is, and you will lose that feeling. in about 2 minutes once you enter a conversation. So yeah, it's just
Yes.
constantly pushing yourself to, do the things that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. But look, it's just a feeling.
Yes. Oh, it's such a good barometer. I think of if you're getting out of your comfort zone, you're changing, you're doing something that is going to move you forward. And you should be familiar with the feeling enough to know, okay, I can get past this. Like you said, minute and a half, 2 minutes, it's gone. Like
Exactly.
it's not going to kill you.
I only had one, like say, I think it was like 6 months ago, or maybe 5 months ago. I was doing a TEDx talk, and
Cool.
everything was prepared, and like it was all kosher, and everything was great. And literally 30 seconds or a minute before I get on stage, I had trouble breathing. Like,
oh, really?
I was like, where is this coming from? So I actually really quickly turned towards the wall, and I just stared at one brick in the wall for about a minute, and I regulated my breathing, and it was gone. But like, had that been me
Smart.
years before that, it would have all fell apart because I would have panicked going on the stage. And
Yes.
like, it's funny because you don't know when these moments are going to come or when these feelings are going to come. I didn't expect it. It just literally came. And it was like almost like the onset of a panic attack. But I was like, I don't actually feel it. And all of a sudden I'm like, what is this? So this happens, and you have to just learn how to control it and realize it's temporary. And then you just got to get over it. So a bit of training, though, I think it takes a bit of emotional intelligence to know where you're at and what's causing it, and really that you do have control over it. You just, sometimes it's hard to see it.
Mm-hmm. That is such great advice. How did the TED Talk go? What did you talk about?
So it actually changed an awful lot. So the topic of the TED Talk was changing the tide. And my talk ended up turning into more of a personal development talk. So what it really pushed me into a space of is thinking of, okay, well, over the last decade of my life, especially in the last 7 years where the company saw the most success and where I saw the most personal development, what can I actually break it down to is the key things that really drove that. And that's what the talk ended up becoming about. It was about, breaking down those barriers of fear and realizing that, you're no different than the next person. And we all have the ability to change our own path. We just need to want that end result more than the work that it requires to get there. And that's what the talk ended up being about. So it was actually a great learning experience for me, because it made me really address certain things in my mind that maybe I wasn't paying attention to or didn't realize. And it helped me just dig a little deeper into those areas and actually try to help myself even more.
And were you asked to do the TED Talk, or did you submit because it was something on a goal list that you've always wanted to do?
I was told by my wife to submit myself, and yes, so she basically said to me, I had known about it for some time, and she's like, why aren't you doing this? Because you've got so much information to share around yourself or development of businesses, or no matter what it is, there's many different areas. Like, why are you not doing this? And you know what it was? It was fear. It was like, I can't. I don't think I can do that. And she was like, no, that's exactly what you're going to do. And she made me submit. And, it worked out, and I was, I think, one of the 6 people chosen for it. And I wouldn't change it for the world. It was a great experience.
That's so cool. I love that she saw that in you, and she's like, come on. Yeah. Our spouses are so good for us for that reason, right?
And that's it. And I'll go back again. It's the importance of your circle. If your circle is not a collective of individuals who want more for you because they genuinely want to see you succeed, you need to change it,
Yes. Oh yeah. And it's hard to change it, but you'll grow so much from that change that it's worth it.
So difficult. You're letting go of relationships that you've had for years. And it's not as if you don't speak to them ever again, but you just end up, investing your time in better places for yourself.
Yeah, such great advice. So your TED Talk, we should do a link. You have a link for that?
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. I'll send that to you. I have the link. It's up on the TED website. So So
Awesome.
I'll forward that to you, and you can link it to the show. Absolutely.
That is so cool. Well, that leads me then into that personal branding side of curious of like how you created this TED Talk, but then how do you define what your personal brand is? And did you go through an exercise, use a coach, things like that? Or were you really authentic and you knew what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So I think on that side is I try to always stay as authentic to myself as I can. And then sometimes when I'm speaking or if I'm talking to anyone, I try to always share the information that's applicable to my journey in the hopes that they might pull something from it that might help them on theirs. Like it's not a one size fits all. So for me, personal branding only really came of importance as the company started to grow. We started to hit some challenges around counterfeits that were challenging the core mission of what the company was even started around, which was safety first. So what I realized very quickly is that we had the leading brand of wig adhesive in the world and still do. But what I realized is that when you asked people about the company or about who they were, no one could tell you anything. They didn't know who owned it. They didn't know. And I love that part of it. I love the anonymity of it and the ability that I can just stay in the background and do what I do and we can move forward as a company. But I was ignoring, I suppose, what the personal branding side could actually bring to the company as well. And where I realized that was a major problem for us was when, we were asking people, like, how was your experience with the product and the company? And they're like, oh yeah, I enjoy dealing with this person, but I actually don't know what the company does. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they stand for. I know that they create safe products. And I was like, that was an eye opener. So that was part of the journey. It was really nothing more complicated than that. It wasn't this aha moment. It was moments of a bit of feedback that was like, I need to get out in front here and show people who we are and what we stand for. And that's what we started to do. And, I went down the journey of doing many podcasts, spoken to a lot of people, did some talks, and I'm still early on in the journey. But what I'm realizing now is the sheer amount of opportunities that have opened because of it. I mean, if you think about it, like this on Friday, we're scrambling, to get stuff ready for red carpet events such as the Grammys. And then by this morning, we've got, US Weekly, we've got InStyle, we've got all the major publications showcasing our products being used on Doja Cat. For both.
Oh, so cool.
So those opportunities are really only on the back end of building that brand. And, it's like, I've got so much more to do and so does the company, but I've realized that if you don't start, you'll never really understand the magnitude of what that can contribute, the personal branding side.
They want to know the story behind the products that they're buying and know the personalities. That brand story makes such a difference when you are commercial, and whether you're B2B or you're B2C. That it's really interesting that you heard that feedback from your customers, but it had to have felt good that they knew that you were about safety, that core value had been true.
Exactly. And, one of the other things that really challenged it was, and it was really for me, it was a hurtful moment. I'm not a very emotional person at all, but we were doing some online reviews of the products and stuff like that. And somebody had basically referred to the owner of the company as being a racist white man. And I was like, to me, that just stopped me in my tracks. I was like, I could not believe it because, the way I grew up and my beliefs and everything, like I am probably one of the single most inclusive people that you'll ever meet. I don't care who you are, what the color of your skin is. I love people, you know what I mean? And that's it. And to have that label, now it was only one small comment, but to have that statement out there was an eye opener for me. I was just like, no, that's even more of a reason now why I need to show people, who we are and who I am and what we stand for, because at the end of the day, we care about what we do. We're not just a big company that's pushing volumes of products to make a profit. We're actually a company who's pushing volumes of products that has tried and tested through, R&D, through its own manufacturing, to make sure that what goes into that, person's hand is safe and it's effective. And to me, not many companies are doing that in the space we operate in. And that really pushed me to change a little bit more about how we did things and the velocity at which I was prepared to go to get my message out there. So yeah, it was just, there's been a few of those learning curves where you don't really intend for, for those things to happen. But again, like I said, challenges in businesses and in life, they come at you, and, you either try to push that darkness away, or you invite it in. If you invite it in, you can deal with it, and I think it's vitally important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take that negative and put it into something positive.
Absolutely.
And customer first. You sound like such a tried and true customer first company. What a wonderful brand. That's fantastic. And that you will do the manufacturing and all of that R&D that is so complex in this industry and so expensive. You can cut corners really quickly to save a buck, but it sounds like that's not your stance.
No, and it never was. And, look, we didn't always manufacture our products. They were always our formulas, but that was one of the key
interesting.
things. Yeah, that was one of the key things that pushed us into the space of actually manufacturing, because dealing with different contract manufacturers, we eventually realized, hey, they do cut corners. And, our brand that has to bear the brunt of that, because we're getting products in bulk, and we're, bottling them and selling them, and we have no control over the manufacturing aspect of it. And we started to get, different inconsistencies in batches, and, scents were not 100% accurate, where they were changing ingredients without telling us. And we realized that there was the ability to do better. And that's why we decided to take it all in house and take control of it. So, and since then it's the problems have been very few, and it's just been a much easier process to deal with, even though it's a huge expense and there's the overheads go through the roof. Ultimately, the volume is helping with that. So it's okay.
Mm-hmm. You are such a driven entrepreneur. I love the heart for your customer. And I've learned some really great lessons in this interview, Ryan. I'm so grateful that you came on to the Persevere podcast. The last thing that I love to leave our guests with is just a quick story of how you have persevered. You have actually shared a couple of ways that you did. I love the TED Talk one, but anything come to mind that when I say that you can share with the audience?
Absolutely. I think one of the things at the very beginning of my journey was realizing that you'll never, ever know it all. And what works for one thing doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for the next thing. And what I mean by that is, when we, in 2009 and 2010, where we made the changes to the company and we tripled revenue, that was amazing. Top of the world. I was like, I figured it out. I've got it. I've done all the work. Yeah. Now I can take this process and replicate it. So moved to Ireland in 2011, opened up the EU facility, and it fell flat in its face. Like literally to the point, to the point where it was like, I think we're going to have to just close this and go back to the States. It's not
no.
So what I realized then, through a little bit of that was the point where you had to start becoming what I refer to kind of as your own hero. You know what I mean? Because it's going to require a lot of work for a lot of nights on your own, with no applause, no recognition, no awards, nobody there to say, well, you have to be your own inspiration and all that jazz. So, that process, I had to kind of dig deep and learn about the different cultures in Europe, specifically about what people expected, from a distribution and a wholesale level. And then I had to learn how to not physically speak their language, but I had to learn how to do business as them. And it took me about 6 months of 12 to 15 hour days to figure that out. But after 6 months, we started to build some relationships, and we were able to cover our overheads, thankfully. And that just led to, growth year on year after that. But that was a time where it could have very easily been a different story. story had I not just dug my heels in and stuck with it. So I would say no matter what problem that you hit in your business, everything is solvable as long as you are willing to do the work on yourself. Because if you're not, you become the biggest bottleneck in your business, and that's where your company will run into problems.
Oh, that's such good advice. Everything is solvable. It is. You don't have to, don't get wrapped around the axle, figure out a solution and move on and keep trying. Persevere, right?
That's it. And you know what? There's no one that can stand in front of me that can tell me they've tried everything, because you know what? If you've tried everything, you'd be winning. You know?
Yes.
So,
yeah. You wouldn't be standing here telling me it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Go back and try it again, or go try something different, because there is a solution there.
Totally. Well, best of luck with all of the red carpet events. That's so exciting. And all the best in 2023 as well. I hope to stay in touch, Ryan. It was an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you. We're going to post your TED Talk and then ways that the audience can follow you and learn more about you, as well as Professional Hair Labs. And I just thank you so much for being a guest today.
No, thanks very much, Patty. I had a good time, and I appreciate the opportunity.